Yes.
Senator Ames would like to see you for a moment, Congressman.
Oh, good. Send him in, please.
For the negotiations.
So?
Well, you remember last year, Katy and the Sultan?
Oh, yes, I do sort of remember a mild flirtation.
Mild flirtation. He romanced her all over town, then asked her to become his wife. Number 17.
16.
Oh, excuse me. 16 is a lot milder than 17.
But at least she said no.
No, she didn't. She said yes.
The spirit of what she said was no.
But the exact word she said was yes.
You know just as well as I do that was Katy's way of helping us get concessions from the Sultan.
And he was a darned attractive young man.
What has that got to do with it?
She never did get around to actually saying no.
Look, could we just drop the subject?
No. Because you did such a great job of heading up the lease committee last year, the State Department wants you to do it again this year.
Oh, great. Well, when does the Sultan get to town?
First of next week. And they're counting on you to negotiate an even more favorable lease this time.
First of next week? That doesn't give me much time.
Ah, come on. You've roughed out agreements in less time than that.
I'm not talking about agreements. I'm talking about getting Katy out of town. Don't blab it once. Miss Holstrom, pick a hand.
Left? Why, thank you, Mr. Morley.
Pick another hand.
Right? It's not my birthday, is it?
The reason for this generosity, and there's more to come, is that I have been a brute.
Oh, no.
Yes, I have. An inconsiderate, thoughtless, selfish brute who has taken advantage of this sweet, self-sacrificing young woman.
Me?
Yes, you, who've been overworked and taken for granted. Well, thank goodness I've come to my senses in time to make amends.
Do you know what he's talking about? I haven't the vaguest idea.
Those two growing boys who run you ragged.
Those two growing boys who are now in school all day?
Never a moment to call your own.
I've just spent the whole morning shopping.
How can I thank you for your faithful and loyal service? Have I ever made the slightest gesture to show you my gratitude? No. So, do you know what I'm going to do?
Give her a gold watch?
No. I'm going to give her a 2 weeks, all expenses paid vacation in Hawaii.
Oh, Mr. Morley.
Ticket? Hotel reservation? Spending money. And there is no need to thank me for it. You deserve every bit of it.
He's not fooling.
No, I'm not. Now, there isn't much time. I think you'd better hurry up and pack your bikinis.
Mr. Morley, you're really too kind.
Not at all.
But what about the boys? Who's going to take care of them?
Mother will be glad to take charge, won't you?
Oh, yes, of course, but...
Thank you. Now, run along. You don't want to miss the plane.
I would if I were you.
Aged.
Maybe he's the other one's father.
Really?
Your Highness, may I present Congressman Morley and Senator Ames.
I'm delighted to make your acquaintance, gentlemen.
Your Highness?
It is my great pleasure to be here in your country. I have come myself this year because last year my son proved to be a bit too easily distracted from business. I do hope, however, that none of you gentlemen will object to a small distraction in the form of a reception at my embassy this evening.
Honored, Your Highness.
Good. I shall look forward to seeing you there with your ladies. Congressman Morley, may I hope that you will bring your charming mother? I understand that she is one of Washington's most distinguished ladies.
I should be pleased to extend your invitation, Your Highness.
Thank you, Congressman. And now, gentlemen, shall we get to the business at hand?
Washington's distinguished ladies are almost always a little late for these affairs, Your Highness. But I'm sure Mrs. Morley will be along presently.
I have no heart for this deceit.
Not even to gain an influential friend in the enemy camp.
As you may recall, my dear Ambassador, some half-dozen years ago, I charmed another of Washington's ladies into serving our purposes.
Miss Dickerson was none the worse for it. Nor will Mrs. Morley be. And we can most certainly benefit from the influence she can exert over her son.
Yes, I know.
Mrs. Morley is an extraordinary woman, Your Highness. I think you will find this a pleasant and profitable duty. There she is.
There he is.
Yes? He looks more distinguished than his photographs.
Smile sweetly, Mother. The negotiations have not started out too favorably for us.
Mrs. Morley, may I present His Most Royal and Serene Highness, the Sultan of Iraq.
Your most humble servant, Madame.
I'm delighted to meet Your Highness.
And I you, dear lady. I have been eagerly looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Would you care to dance?
I'd love to.
It is my fond hope that our two countries may establish a similar harmony.
I hope so.
They dance very well, don't you think?
I had the pleasure of meeting your son about this time last year.
Oh, indeed. Though I understood the pleasure was my son.
You must be confusing me with another member of our household, Miss Katy Holstrom.
My son mentioned only a very charming lady. Naturally, I assumed...
Your Highness is most gracious.
Excuse me.
Hi.
Hi. They dance very well together.
Yeah, everyone seems to think so.
Looks like you sent the wrong one off to Hawaii.
Yeah. Well, I beg your pardon.
Well, they do dance very well together.
So you said.
As I recall, the old Sultan also danced rather well with Miss Dickerson a few years back.
Miss... Oh, I'd almost forgotten. Well, if the Sultan tries any of his tricks, I'm sure that my mother will be smart enough to see through them.
The ballet? Oh, I should be delighted.
Something troubling you?
Yes. But not the oil deal at the moment. You know, my mother and the Sultan have gone out every night this week.
Well, I warned you. Remember the incident with Miss Dickerson?
Well, I know, but I...
Women
thought
have
she
one
would
thing in common, Glen. They love flattery. And our friend the Sultan can be very flattering.
Now, I'm going to speak to His Royal Serene Highness and let him know that I know just what he's up to and that it will get him nowhere with the oil lease deal.
The State Department's getting a little uneasy about things. Maybe you should wait until the negotiations are going a little better for us.
No, thank you. This has gone on long enough. Well, there they are.
I'd appreciate it if you'd bend every effort to avoid an international incident.
Boy, I bet Grandma's really gonna get it for coming home so late.
She's sure it's after midnight.
Good evening, Mother, Your Highness.
Good evening, dear.
Congressman?
We were just going to have a glass of brandy. Will you join us?
Why, yes, Mother. Thank you. I'd like that.
Fine. Will you do the honors and I'll go and freshen up.
Of course. Your Highness. I am glad to have this opportunity to speak with you.
Oh, please, my dear Congressman, not the oil lease. Not tonight.
No, not the oil lease. Or rather, only indirectly.
Thank you.
I thought we might have a little sociological talk about the role of the American woman in our society.
This is my understanding they are full and equal partners.
When it comes to affairs of state, Your Highness, I'm afraid that's a total misconception.
If you say so, Congressman.
Well, let's take, for example, my mother. There is probably no more knowledgeable woman in Washington. Yet she has never once tried to influence a decision of mine, even down to so small an item as the selection of my socks. Cheers.
Come in.
Hi, Grandma.
Is Dad gonna punish you?
I don't think so. But I'm not so sure about you. What are you doing up so late?
Oh, well, we were just kind of hanging around.
To see if Dad was gonna punish you for staying up so late.
Danny,
Children, this is grown-up business and no concern of yours.
if something concerns you and we love you, well, then it concerns us, too.
And now, Stephen, you've got an excellent point there.
Yeah?
Yeah? Well, what do you want to know?
Are you gonna marry that dumb old Sultan?
That dumb old Sultan hasn't asked me.
Now that we have beaten about all the bushes, my dear Mr. Morley, what you are saying is that I've been exploiting your mother to my own selfish ends. Is that correct?
Well, if you can guarantee no international complications, Your Highness, I must admit that, yes, that has been the gist of my thought.
Had you so accused me when I first arrived, you would have indeed been right.
And now?
Now you are wrong. Something happened that I most certainly had not counted on.
What was that?
I became truly fascinated by your mother. You see, in my country, the women are simple little creatures who hide prettily behind their veils until we summon them forth to do our bidding. I, therefore, had never known that a woman could possess a fine, bright spirit like your mother's. I had never known that a lady's company could be so stimulating and fulfilling. And although I have known your mother but a brief time, it has been long enough for me to know that I want her for my wife. I believe the word was, cheers. It won't do at all, I'm afraid.
But, Your Highness, it is the very finest Chablis we have in our cellar.
Then apparently your fineness isn't good enough. You'll have a Pouillet Fouisse 57.
Yes, Your Highness.
Marvelous. I've never seen a man do that before. Takes a Sultan, I guess. I'm impressed by your bravery.
Well, I may be brave enough to send the wine back, but I find I'm not brave enough to speak what is on my mind.
Oh?
So I shall let this speak for me.
Oh, it's exquisite.
Those jewels have been in my family for many generations.
Now I'm the one who is tongue-tied. It's magnificent.
More important, do you know what it means, my dear Agatha?
I think I do.
It is strange. I have had many wives, and yet I have never once proposed.
May I inquire how you got them to become your wives?
Oh, in my country, those things are arranged. It's like ordering a dinner or a suit of clothes. But here, a man has to go through the worst kind of torture.
The kind of torture that many American men don't seem to mind, however.
Or have not yet devised a way to avoid it.
Tell me, How many wives do you have?
Presently, there are 12 in my household.
It is rather a large collection.
And I have long since tired of their pretty, brainless little ways. I long for the happy companionship I'd have with you, dear Agatha.
Of course, you realize there are a great many things involved in a decision of this kind.
Oh, indeed. I ask only now that you think about it.
I should probably think of little else. It's rather fun to start a new life at my age. There aren't many surprises left in this one.
I don't want her marrying him, and that's that.
Why not? He's charming, cultured, sophisticated, the richest man in the world. I wouldn't mind calling him Daddy.
Very funny. Would you mind being serious?
Okay.
My mother, young as she is in spirit, is too old to pull up roots and move to another country. It just wouldn't work, and I'd like her to realize that before it's too late.
Well, that sounds right sensible, Congressman.
Would you like to have a try at convincing her?
No. But why not send in the first team?
What first team?
I'm referring to the little lovely you sent packing off to Hawaii. Women sometimes have a way of getting to other women, you know.
Katy.
Now, why didn't I think of that?
I see. So the problem as you see it is to break up the romance.
Exactly. All suggestions will be given careful consideration by the chairman.
You could send her on a 2 weeks vacation trip to Hawaii in appreciation for long and faithful service.
Nobody likes a wise guy.
Maybe we could get the Iraqian ambassador to arrange a nice little border incident that would require the Sultan's immediate presence at home.
Next suggestion?
I have a marvelous idea. I think we should do nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Oh, that's a nifty little plan. So well worked out.
You came all the way back from Hawaii to offer that?
There's always the border incident.
Excuse me. Mr. Morley, I think you're too close to the situation to be objective. Now, after all, she is your mother, and it's quite understandable that you might be overly protective towards her.
Which is your tactful way of saying that I am butting in where I have no business to.
Well...
But they don't know what they're doing.
You have decided that. Justus, you decided I could not be on same continent with young Sultan, so you sent me off to Hawaii.
Well, that's a
terrible thing to do, and this is terrible, too. Mrs. Morley and the Sultan are adult, mature individuals, and they can decide what is right for themselves.
Even if they're making a mistake?
Oh, don't worry, Mr. Morley. She will not make a mistake. She will do the sensible thing.
Which is?
What is right for her, of course.
Care to reconsider the border incident?
It's really been most wonderful. And now I have come to a decision. My dear Sultan, honored and flattered as I've been, and very, very tempted, I'm afraid the decision is no.
Oh, boy.
That was close.
I shall never forget you. I think you're a fine, generous, most remarkable man.
Then would you be so good as to tell me why this fine, generous, and most remarkable man is being turned down?
Yes, I owe you that. I've been very privileged in my life. I had one of those fine, rare marriages. My husband was a wonderful man, and my life with him was so fulfilled that I've decided to content myself with the memories of.
I envy you that.
I have two other reasons. They're called Danny and Steve. I wouldn't miss watching those boys grow into men for anything in the world. Not anything at all.
Good and sufficient reasons. I want you to keep it.
Thank you. I couldn't.
Then it is truly over.
I shall miss you.
gave up everything for us.
Yeah, but she could have been a princess.
Oh, for Pete's sake, who ever heard of a princess grandma?
Katy.
Ollie, what are you doing here?
Our ambassador telephoned me to come and help iron out certain problems. Apparently, Father was having trouble with the oilies or something. By the time I arrived, everything was settled.
He's on his way back to Iraq.
Right. And now that there's no problems to solve, I can spend all of my time in pursuit of you.
As you know, dear, last year she never actually did say no.
Mother?
Yes.
You know, Katy didn't finish her vacation. And I understand it's beautiful at this time of year in Mexico.